Once you learn how much JFK did for the NFL and how we treated him, how we disrespected him, we'll be up all night digging through the documents, demanding answers just like everyone else. Because there was proof that JFK loved football. He loved the NFL, as a matter of fact. So much that he used his leadership and his position to progress the sport to new heights, to change the game forever. And no one even knows how the NFL did him dirty right after his death. First of all, did you know that the Lombardi Trophy may not even be named after Vince Lombardi, the legendary head coach, if it wasn't for JFK? Let's go back to 1961 so I could paint you a picture. Kind of ironically, the US and the Soviet Union were beefing back then, just like they're beefing kind of now, or not beefing. At the time, just before the NFL's merger with the AFL to start the official Super Bowls, the Green Bay Packers were running shop in the NFL. Vince Lombardi's Packers were dominating the league, behind one of their best players, MVP and Hall of Famer Paul Horan. He was a four-time NFL champion. He did win one of the Super Bowls with the Green Bay Packers before himself was kicked out of the league. I'm sure it had nothing to do with the story I'm about to tell you. This guy was a true Lombardi player. He played halfback and kicked. He was a punter as well, and nicknamed the Golden Boy for having all of these talents. But the problem was that he wasn't just the NFL MVP. He also was enlisted in the United States Army. So when the Berlin crisis heightened tensions between the US and the Soviet Union during the Cold War, it was activated. It had to start going and training for preparation to be deployed, possibly, leaving the Green Bay Packers behind in the middle of their playoff run, unless the president somehow exempts you from your military training so you can go and play in the playoffs. This is where things get interesting, because Vince Lombardi and JFK had actually become friends when JFK came to Wisconsin on his campaign. And Lombardi had actually become a JFK supporter and fan, and actually voted for him publicly and wanted him to become president. Was it just because he liked JFK and he knew that JFK was what was best for the country? Or did he also know that one day he might need to call in a favor? Think about the most competitive coaches in the game today. What would Andy Reid do to keep Patrick Mahomes from having to go to war? Anything. So what did Vince Lombardi do? Apparently, Vince Lombardi had the president's contact information from this visit. He called up the president and directly asked if he would let the NFL MVP play in the NFL title game. The title game that led to Green Bay, Wisconsin being nicknamed Title Town, and eventually led to the trophy possibly being named after Vince Lombardi, amongst a bunch of other things that Lombardi did. I mean, they should make a movie about this story, because just like that, all it took was a phone call and the MVP was sent home to play in the championship game. The Green Bay Packers won the NFL title. Can you imagine that Saquon Barkley, just a couple days before the Super Bowl, gets called to active duty service, and the president stops everything he's doing and he says, you know what? We need the Eagles' best player on the field to take out the Chiefs. And sorry, Giants fans, for both Saquon Barkley and for being the team that JFK helped the Packers beat. Lombardi goes on to win Super Bowls 1 and 2, and the trophy ends up being named after him, and the rest is history. Imagine JFK doesn't step in. The Packers lose. Vince Lombardi's legacy isn't as strong, and the trophy's named after... who knows? But also, if you don't know or don't remember, JFK set up the entire broadcasting network that allows us to even be talking right now. Because before 1961, the MLB, the NBA, the NFL, they were kind of lost in the sauce on how to perfectly monetize the entertainment value of their sports. They hadn't perfected broadcasting yet. It was 60, 70 years ago now. It makes sense. And the country started to figure out how to broadcast news, entertainment, stuff like this. Sports had to get in on the action. And the only way that football was going to explode, because it didn't have a global market like baseball has, or soccer, or other sports, is if they can get on TV. And that's where JFK came in and signed the Sports Broadcasting Act of 1961, which set everything up for the NFL and laid out exactly how to distribute the wealth earned through these broadcasts, through advertisers, that money to get spread out and filtered through the owners, management, coaches, players, media personality like me, and even fans like you. And really, I'm not even a media personality. I'm just a fan that likes to talk about sports. I like to talk about football specifically. It's the sport that I played for 10 years. And I can successfully make a living talking about football thanks to this act that JFK started back then. because that is what allowed most sports, and especially the NFL, to grow into multi-billion-dollar industries. And people don't realize that this set it up for so many sports figures, sports broadcasters, players, basically everything that's ever happened on TV from 1961 until now started with this, when it comes to sports at least. I treat this guy with absolute respect and listen to everything he has to say after that, but the NFL owners didn't, and the NFL didn't either. We were going through the civil rights era. John F. Kennedy was a big part in pushing this. We were supposed to be integrating sports at this time. There were select NFL owners and even the NFL commissioner himself that weren't enforcing it. It felt like there were some secret handshake deals behind the scenes still, until JFK came along and fought tooth and nail with the NFL owners to eradicate this thinking from their minds forever. Because there was a new boss in town, and he actually owned the stadium in Washington, D.C. and held it up ransom. Told the Redskins that they cannot play there unless they integrated their team. And sure enough, in 1962, the Washington Redskins, even though their owner was an admitted racist, desegregated their roster. They added players of all races to the team. And they were the final domino, the final team to do so. So at this point, the NFL was fully desegregated thanks to JFK pushing so hard. Otherwise, this might have went on for another 5 to 10 years, possibly. And jokes on that L of a racist owner, because later on, the stadium would eventually be named after JFK as well. I mean, like, how petty do you have to be after this guy literally has given you all of the money that you have in your pocket damn near? They don't even know what the NFL is going to be one day. And even though he did all of this, one tragedy struck, and JFK was officially assassinated in Dallas. The NFL commissioner still made the Dallas Cowboys play while this was all simultaneously happening. They still made the Washington Redskins play their division rivals while this was happening. I mean, there's Dallas Cowboys players even saying when Lee Harvey Oswald was taken out, suspiciously, by the way, how all people who are part of these big global events are suspiciously taken out like that. You see my tinfoil hat? Them boys watched Lee Harvey Oswald get taken out by Jack Ruby in the locker room in pregame, right before they're about to take the field. And they didn't cancel the game. Washington players said that they were watching on their locker room TVs JFK's body being brought into the Capitol building in Washington, D.C., while they get ready to play their division rival Philadelphia Eagles. How is that okay? And the commissioner came out and said, oh, it's because JFK loved football. And he also claimed that it is just American tradition after tragedies to continue on with sports. But I disagree with this, because I don't think they should have continued on after the Owen Hart incident. I don't think that the race should have continued on after Dale Earnhardt. And even to go to more recent times, they stopped the game rightfully when Damar Hamlin collapsed. Really what this was about is there were already butts in those seats. There were already people tuned into those TV channels, and this was a new era, a new time where this was all exploding. NFL owners were putting their hands in the cookie jar and pulling out gold, not cookies. Like, to turn this down for a day, on a day where they knew everyone was going to be glued to their TVs, would be turning down so much money. And that's what this was about at the time. That happened today, I have no doubt in my mind, Roger Goodell, the NFL, they aren't stupid. They would cancel games maybe for a month. But back then, people only thought about one thing. And simply, the NFL wasn't as rich as it is now. And there wasn't social media. There wasn't anything to backlash on them for this publicly. But the least I can do is bring it to your attention, continue to watch the experts go through these documents and find answers. And I know we can't control what the NFL owners do, but we can hold their asses to the fire nowadays. Also, this video is to make sure that you guys never forget about JFK and the legacy that he set forth. When you talk about a guy that went hard, you talk about someone who stood up for our favorite sport, this guy is one of the biggest ones. Will we get answers on his death? I guess sooner rather than later. The conspiracy theorists, who have probably been right this whole entire time, won't lie.
Bill Flames, I went Mike on the mic. With something brand new, one time for your mind. He gave you fair warning. Now it's time to smack him in the mouth with that raw sports talk from the town. Sweet chin music to your favorite sportscaster.